Good morning, everyone, and welcome to the Wednesday, June 3rd edition of the MMAOB Daily podcast. I'm your host, as always, Adam Martin. Going to be taking you guys through the latest in the world of mixed martial arts. First and foremost, guys, follow me on Twitter at MMAdamMartin. This podcast is available at MMAOddsbreaker.com and on our YouTube channel at youtube.com/MMAOddsbreaker. Please like, share, subscribe. I appreciate that, guys. Also, check me out at bjpenn.com, Shiro.com, MMAs.com, and MMARings.net. So, breaking news in the middle of the night, so I'm going to get right to that immediately, and then there's a couple fight announcements to get to. But the breaking news happened 1 in the morning. I was just on my Twitter and I saw this. John Morgan reported that the UFC has cut ties with John Lineker. So, yes, the UFC has released, whatever you want to call it, John Lineker. And it's very surprising. I mean, okay, so first off, he has pulled out of a couple fights lately, including one 2 weeks ago against Rob Font, where he suffered a cut like a couple days before the fight, maybe the day before the fight, was forced to be removed from the card. This came after John Lineker went on his social media and his Twitter and said, the UFC's not giving me fights. Please cut me. I want to fight. And then he went out there and literally got cut on his head. And then the UFC went and cut him 2 weeks later, released him. So definitely not a good 2 week stretch here for John Lineker. And I'm very surprised the UFC went ahead and took the drastic step of actually cutting this guy. It just doesn't make sense, really, because Dana White was on his Contender Series a couple weeks ago saying how Brendan Loughnane, that wasn't the guy he wanted. He wants killers. He wants guys that go there and stand and bang. He doesn't want guys shooting for takedowns. John Lineker, I don't think, has ever shot for a takedown in his life. All he does is stand and bang. All he does is stand in the middle of the octagon and trade with his opponents. The guy is one of the most exciting fighters pound for pound in MMA, especially in the UFC. The guy's an incredible fighter. Again, he has had some issues with making weight a long time ago when he was a flyweight. He has had issues pulling out of fights lately due to injuries and stuff like that. And he's had, obviously, problems with the promotion. He has problems with the matchmakers. We all get that. And there's a lot of stuff going on behind the scenes that, again, we don't know about. There could be contractual stuff that we don't know about. There could be a lot more going on that we don't know about. But from the surface, from what we can see, the UFC cut one of the most exciting fighters on the roster, and that's why it doesn't make sense, because they let go of a great fighter. And now he's a free agent. So before I talk about what could be next for John Lineker, I just want to talk about his career in the UFC. This guy came to the UFC, I believe, in 2012 or 2013. When was this? 2012. That was his first fight. He fought Louis Gaudinot. I remember this fight. One fight of the night. He missed weight for that fight. One fight of the night. He actually lost the fight by submission. And at that point, you were like, by the way, that was the last time Tony Ferguson lost on that card. So that's how long he's been in the UFC. That was the same fight, same card that Tony Ferguson fought Michael Johnson. Also the same card Jim Miller fought Nate Diaz, and what else was on that card? Alan Belcher fought Bruce Harris. So that card was a long time ago, which is crazy to think about. But he's been in the UFC for 7, 8 years now. Lost that fight and then went on a 6-fight win streak after that. Or a 4-fight win streak, excuse me. He beat a couple guys in the flyweight division. Yasuhiro Yorostani, Azamat Gashimov, Jose Maria Tomei, Phil Harris. He missed weight for the Tomei and Harris fights, but the UFC knew they had something special here because he was knocking everyone out at 125, which was rare, especially at that point. We don't have many flyweights anymore. But at the time, John Lineker was the guy that a lot of us thought, hey, this guy could actually fight Demetrius Johnson. He could contend for a title because he has legitimate knockout power for a small guy. Went and fought Ali Bagatinov, and he kind of exposed his lack of size in that division. He was taken down, he was controlled, lost that fight. There was a number one contender fight. Ali went up to fight DJ, lost the decision, I believe, in Vancouver, while John Lineker went on a 6-fight run after that. He won 6 straight fights. He fought Alp Oskalich, one fight of the night, great fight, knocked him out in the 3rd round. He fought Ian McCall. He missed weight for that fight again. Another missed weight. So that was the 4th time he had missed weight. And at that point, the UFC forced him to move up to bantamweight. Makes his move to bantamweight, UFC 191, an amazing fight, one fight of the night against Francisco Rivera. One of the best fights of the year. I mean, that was an insane round. The first round in that fight was absolute dynamite. One of the best rounds ever, probably, especially for the bantamweight division. You go find the gifs of that fight still live on to this day. It was an incredible fight. That flurry where both guys were just exchanging bombs. That's the thing with John Lineker. He stood in the pocket and took shots to his chin and delivered shots to his opponent's chin. The guy was an amazing fighter. He still is. Shouldn't say like he's dead or anything. He's not dead. He's just not in the UFC anymore. But he was an incredible fighter in the UFC. After their Vera fight, he went and fought Rob Font. won decision. Then fought Michael McDonald, knocked him out in one performance of the night. It was a great performance. And then fought John Dodson, and he missed weight again. So that was the fifth weight miss of fights that he actually made it to. So that was another knock against him. Again, the missed weight was definitely bad, especially that one against Dodson, because it was at bantamweight, not at flyweight. So missed weight there, still on decision. And then he fought TJ Dillashaw, UFC 207. That was the night that Ronda Rousey got knocked out by Amanda Nunes, and Cody Garbrandt beat Dominic Cruz. TJ Dillashaw dominated him. Again, the lack of size really showed up there in that fight. And then the Marlon Vera fight, he won, and then he knocked out Brian Kelleher in the third round. And then his last fight in the UFC was against Corey Sandhagen a couple months ago. He lost a split decision. It was a great fight again. So the guy was always in good fights. He had a great career in the UFC. What was his total record? 6-4, 2, what is that? 12 and 4 record in the UFC. Great record. As far as flyweight bantamweight goes, probably one of the best ever to do it. And here's the other thing about John Lineker: only 29 years old, so he's actually younger than me, which is crazy. Guy's a young guy still. He has a ton of fights. He has 40 fights, so maybe he's taking quite a bit of damage. But still, one of the best chins in MMA. I don't think he's ever been knocked out. Let's see, never been knocked out. Submitted 3 times in 40 fights and lost 6 decisions. But overall, the guy's been a beast. He has 31 wins, and 18 of them by stoppage. I mean, for a smaller guy at 125, 135, that's a really high finish rate. So great fighter, and to me, it's a bad decision by the UFC. I get it. Like, again, there's more stuff that we don't know about that's going on, and there's probably tons of stuff going on behind the scenes. But on the surface, they cut an exciting fighter and someone that fans like to watch. Not saying he was a draw by any means. Look, my dogs are so pissed that the UFC cut John Lineker. I'm pissed too. It's crazy. But here's the thing. Okay, so we've talked about John Lineker in the UFC. What's next for John Lineker? There's 2 options, I think, out there. One is one championship, and I think a lot of people think that's a good move for him. One championship has a lot of money. They clearly are not opposed to bringing in former UFC fighters. They brought in a bunch of them, like DJ Eddie Alvarez. I think that John Lineker would be a great addition to the one roster. And I think maybe we could actually see that fight with DJ at some point. That'd be an amazing fight. I've wanted to see that one for years. I'd love to see John Lineker versus Demetrius Johnson. It'd be an awesome fight. But also the other option would be to go to Rizin and fight Kyoji Horiguchi, and that would be an insane fight. 2 of the best guys in the world. I mean, surprising that fight never happened in the UFC. But again, Horiguchi's another guy that UFC really should have kept around as well. Guys, stop, please. Horiguchi's another guy that UFC should have kept around as well, but they let him go, and he's going on an amazing, epic run in Rizin. So, yeah, I mean, honestly, either of those options make a lot of sense for John Lineker next, but it's just disappointing he's not in the UFC anymore. Bellator, I guess, could take a run at him as well for their 135-pound weight class. There are some decent fights, I think, for him in Bellator, like a Juan Archuleta would be a good fight, for instance, or really even, I guess Horiguchi's a champ now, but even Darian Caldwell, the former champion as well. So there's some good fights there, but I think Horiguchi and Rizin or DJ in one. Those are the 2 fights I want to see as a fan. So maybe this is actually going to work out pretty good, because John Lineker he's almost turned into a gatekeeper at this point for the UFC, which sucks because the guy's so exciting. But just an amazing fighter, and it's a shame the UFC had to let him go. But again, he did pull out quite a few fights. To be fair to the UFC matchmakers, he pulled out a few fights, and the 1-2 weeks ago clearly really ticked them off, pulling out at the last second, losing that fight against Rob Font. It is what it is. Sucks he's gone. I'll miss John Lineker in the UFC, but hopefully, he goes on to one or Rizin or whoever. It makes a lot of money and main events cards, because that's what he deserves. And I think he's going to put on a show. And I think maybe those fans over there will appreciate him a bit more than some of them did in North America. I think a lot of the hardcore fans did, but he never really became a star like he could have been if he was a little bit bigger, I think, because the guy was a guy who stood and banged, and that's what a lot of fans want to see. But for whatever reason, just wasn't able to really come on as a star. And I really apologize for my dogs, guys. Sorry, they're really loud today. Next up, a couple of fight outs to talk about. So UFC Uruguay has a co-main event. Kind of a surprising one, actually. This one kind of came out of nowhere for me anyways. It's a good fight, but a little surprising. Mike Perry taking on Vicente Luque, so that's at UFC Uruguay. Mike Perry coming off a win over Alex Oliveira, one fight of the night. Great fight. Overall, what's his record? 5-6-4 in the UFC. So he's been pretty good. He's been inconsistent at times. He definitely looked good in that last fight, though. I think he's actually improving, which is a good thing. Only 27 still, young guy. Vicente Luque, also 27. He's had a great career in the UFC. 9-2 record in the UFC. Awesome fighter. 5 straight wins, coming off of 5 straight finishes. All his wins in the UFC are by stoppage, either knockout or submission. So the guy's an absolute beast. Love watching him fight. It's a good matchup, but again, I thought Vicente Luque would get a ranked opponent. Like I thought Damian Maia would make sense. Someone like that that's actually ranked. I don't know if Mike Perry is. I don't think he is right now. To me, it's a good fight, but I think Vicente Luque deserved a little better. Like at what point what does he have to do to get a ranked opponent? Like he's won 5 straight fights. Give the guy someone with a ranking beside their name. Mike Perry, don't get me wrong, this is gonna be a good fight. Both guys, 2 guys like stand bang, and if the fight goes to the ground, then there's 2 guys that, well, I mean, Perry's probably going to get submitted if it goes to the ground, but 2 guys that could put on a show on the ground as well, because Luque is an amazing submission artist. But most likely it's going to take place on the feet, and it's going to be a good brawl. But again, I thought that Luque would get a higher ranked opponent. One other fight announcement here: UFC China has one more fight announced. It's no way bout between Anthony Hernandez and Yong Park. So Anthony Hernandez, he lost his UFC debut. It was disappointing. They call him Fluffy, this guy. He's 7-1. He lost to Marcus Perez. Only 25 years old, though, so he's still young. Remember him from Contender Series, also from LFA. Young guy, for still 25, like I said, but definitely didn't look good against Marcus Perez losing that fight. And Yong Park, pull him out here. This guy's record, according to Sherdog, he's 9-3 from South Korea, 28 years old. He's on, according to Sherdog, a 6-fight win streak right now. Don't know a lot about this guy. I'd have to look into him a little bit more, but he did beat Ray Cooper 2 years ago in PXC, Pacific Extreme Combat. So that's a huge win, obviously, considering how good Ray Cooper's looked lately. So we'll see what happens in this fight. I mean, I honestly, Hernandez looks so bad in that last fight that I might have to take this Park guy, but I got to look into that one a little bit more. And again, that's the card that starts at 3 a.m. So we'll have to get up early for that one, guys. And one other piece of news before I get out of here, Cain Velasquez actually revealed yesterday. No, he didn't reveal, but the promotion he's with Lucha Libre AAA Pro Wrestling. That's where Cain Velasquez will be wrestling now at their Triple Mania event in August. So that's interesting to me. Cain is a former champion in the UFC. He was one of the best heavyweights of all time, but a lot of injuries, a couple knockout losses, long layoffs, a lot of stuff derailed his career. I don't know if this means he's done from MMA completely, but if he does well in pro wrestling, why come back to MMA at this point? Like, the guy's always said he wanted to do pro wrestling. I think he could be a big star for them down in Mexico, to be honest with you. Ironically, the arena he's fighting at is Mexico City Arena. That's the same place he lost to Fabricio Verdun and lost his belt 4 years ago. So let's see if C-level Cain can come back to that, and not the guy who was at elevation and who lost that fight by submission. So I just thought that was kind of interesting. But yes, Cain Velasquez doing pro wrestling, and a lot of people think this could be the end of his MMA career, but it remains to be seen. Although if he does well, I mean, who knows? Maybe WWE could call and they could do the Brock Lesnar rematch in wrestling. So we'll see what happens there. But yeah, good for Cain. Hope he gets paid well, man. And another guy that I think he could have been a lot better than what he was, but the injuries really caught up to him. And MMA is brutal, but so is wrestling. So hopefully he's booked correctly, and hopefully he doesn't wrestle that often. He can probably afford to wrestle a couple times a year or something, and make some good money doing that. So good for Cain, and I wish him all the best. And that's it for today, guys. Apologies for my dogs earlier. I don't know what happened. Someone was outside, probably the mailman or something, always chasing the mailman. But yes, appreciate that, guys. Follow me on Twitter at MMAOB. The podcast is available at MMAOddsbreaker.com and on our YouTube channel at youtube.com/MMAOddsbreaker. Please like, share, subscribe. I have posted 2 previews for UFC 239, Santos versus Jones, and Holm versus Nunez. So check those out. The written previews on the website, as well as the opening odds reactions for UFC 239. I can't wait for this card. Let's see, Sherdog.com. I'm going to send my prime picks in today. They'll be up tomorrow. BJPen.com, always posting news there. MMAnews.com will have something for UFC 239. Same with MMAratings.net. And I think that's all I want to plug for now. Oh, yeah, the podcast, of course. Myself and Cole Sheldon will be doing this podcast, breaking down UFC 239 very shortly. So stay tuned to this channel, because I'm looking forward to breaking down that card. It's an amazing card. I'm looking forward to doing the breakdown with Cole Sheldon. So have a great day, guys. Apologies again for the dog. They were really loud. I'm really sorry about that. But I'll talk to you guys soon, and definitely check into the UFC 239 preview. Have a great day, guys.